are not, can you talk when you look at family governance and you look at those pieces, what are some of those areas? So you talked about a family board of directors, and then there's so hit on some of those things, and what are some of the documents, or what are some of the things that people would put time into? We talked about the employment policy being one of them.
Yeah, I think one of the great connecting points for family members, whether they work in the business or not, can be developing things like a family constitution. And for people who are not familiar with a family constitution, it's really putting together kind of a statement of purpose or mission for the family, about the family. And there's some great examples. I would encourage people to go online and Google family constitution or family mission statement, family vision statement. But essentially what is contained in one of those statements is some messages around the purpose of our unification as a family, where the business fits into it, sometimes less about the business, sometimes more around the success that the family has achieved, what it means, what its intended goal is for the next generation of the family. It's also a great way, so you imagine 5, 6 sentences, sometimes even 3 sentences, right? It's a statement, it's not a book, it's not a chapter, but it's sort of saying, it can also say, here's what we believe in as a family, here's what's important to us as a family. And I've seen, Michael, and I'm sure you and Pat have too, that some families, when they have their family meetings, once they have that constitution or purpose statement, they'll put it at the top of every one of their meeting agendas. Sometimes it'll be more values-based. Here's the values that are important to us as a family. And you can walk into the offices of some of the family businesses around the country, as I've had the pleasure of doing. And sometimes you walk right into the door or walk up the stairs and there's the statement, right? And I think it can be such a great place. It sounds simple, but you have to have a lot of discussions to put something like that together. I think that is just a foundational sort of exercise that can bear fruit for a long time. One of the others, I think, is for families to really dive in. We've talked about communication a lot, to understanding communication styles, communication differences, and really use that education as a way to stay more connected as a family, and to overcome or even manage ahead of conflict, which is inherent in every family, right? Family dynamics is not a term that was invented for family businesses or for those who are wealthy. Everyone, family is family. But the more you can lean into that, and there's some great tools that families can use, assessment tools, many of which are kind of fun, like the DISC Communication Styles Inventory, Gallup's Strength Finders tool, which actually has a version that's appropriate for teens called Strength Quest, which is all about finding out your key signature strengths and then how to leverage those as part of the family's collective strength. Those kind of family unity building experiences, to some they sound too touchy-feely, but we have found again and again, you spend some time upstream on really focusing in on those as part of your foundation, and it makes it so much easier for families downstream to understand each other and work well together, whether they work in the business or outside of the business, or they're crossing that bridge to meet each other in the middle.
One of the, in regard to conflict, I saw a family include in their constitution a conflict resolution policy that included the expectation that they would all get trained in a methodology that they would agree to apply to the issues if they came up, but to be very explicit about that policy. You'll also see education policies. There might be a policy around prenuptial agreements. You referenced that, Michael, but as you know, in family business, that's an incredibly important risk management strategy.
No, those are great examples. I mean, it's neat. I've never heard of the education policy. I've never heard of somebody going through and doing a conflict resolution policy. Those are just great ideas around how to, and think about that. The non business owning or the non-managing family members can really be engaged in those pieces and those tools, and I think it's just, what becomes hard for most is that you have to take the time and be really intentional about this. And And the way, the pushback that I've, gotten at times is that life gets in the way. And it's just, there's so much going on. How can I add this to what I'm doing already? And I think the answer, becomes, how can you not? It's so valuable. If you end up in that wrong situation, if you end up without these things, oof, there's a lot to lose. And at the heart of it, like you said, now when we started, was we want to be sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table together.
Yeah. Well, and I also think you can, each family goes at their own pace. So in my experience, to develop a governance structure, to, a constitution, that can take 18 to 24 months. So the commitment is to work at it. There's not a quick fix. The journey is probably more important than the outcome, and really committing to time that is practicable, to work on that journey, I think is really, it helps make it more digestible for families. And then you also have,
sorry.
I was going to say, you also have to revisit. Yeah.
Sorry about that. We're both very excited about this concept. I was just going to add, let's never forget, and I think this can really help families sort of focus together on the work. Let's not forget that we're trying to set up sometimes structures or just examples for that upcoming generation around how they can manage it. Let's do the work now so that they have something that can be passed on to them that says, here are all the things we figured out, good and bad, about how to make this work.
Right.